I always told myself that some friendships are meant to last forever. The kind where nothing could ever blur the lines, where trust feels unshakable, and where the bond is strong enough to withstand anything. At least, that's what I believed, until that night. He and I had been friends for years, just friends. We met through work, bonded over late-night deadlines, endless coffee runs, and small jokes no one else seemed to get. Over time, he became the person I could always count on. If my car broke down, he was there. If I needed to vent about life, he listened. Nothing ever felt complicated between us. But looking back, maybe I was lying to myself. Maybe there had always been something underneath the laughter, something we both ignored because it was easier not to face it. That night, everything shifted. It was supposed to be simple, just dinner at my place. He had been helping me with a personal project, and I figured the least I could do was cook a meal to say thank you. I opened a bottle of wine, nothing fancy, just enough to take the edge off after a long week. We talked like we always did, the conversation flowing effortlessly. But somewhere between the second glass of wine and the way his eyes lingered a little too long on mine, the air changed. It grew heavier, charged, almost like the room itself knew something we didn't want to admit. And in that silence between words, I realized we weren't just friends anymore. I tried to ignore it at first. I laughed a little louder than I needed to, forced the conversation back to safe topics, anything to avoid acknowledging the tension that hung between us. But no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't unsee it. The way his gaze softened when I looked at him, the way his smile lingered just a fraction too long. After dinner, we moved to the couch. It was late, the kind of quiet hour when the world outside feels far away and you almost forget there's a tomorrow waiting. He sat close enough that our shoulders touched. It was subtle, but my entire body felt it, like a spark running through me. I told myself to get up, to put space between us. But I didn't move. Instead, I stayed there, sipping my wine, pretending that nothing was happening, even though everything was. He leaned in slightly, his voice lower than before. You know, I've always felt like we understand each other better than anyone else. It was such an innocent line, something he could have said 100 times before. But in that moment, it didn't feel innocent at all. It felt like a confession wrapped in casual words. My throat went dry, and I managed a soft, "Yeah, I know." Silence stretched between us. Not uncomfortable, more like a pull, a quiet invitation neither of us wanted to admit out loud. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears, faster, louder, almost betraying me. And then his hand brushed against mine, just lightly like a question. I froze. Every part of me screamed to pull back, to end it before it began. But I didn't. I stayed there, my hand trembling beneath his touch, while my mind raced with everything I knew this meant. That was the first moment I realized we were standing at the edge of a line we could never uncross. The weight of his hand on mine felt heavier than it should have, as if the entire room had narrowed down to that single point of contact. My breath caught in my throat, and I couldn't bring myself to move. He looked at me then, really looked at me, in a way he never had before. His eyes searched mine, almost as though he was asking permission without saying a word. And maybe that's what scared me the most. I didn't want to give it, but I didn't want to take it away either. I whispered, This isn't a good idea." The words came out shaky, weak, more like a plea to myself than to him. But he leaned closer, his voice barely above a whisper. "I know, but it feels like it's the only thing that's ever made sense." My heart was pounding so loud, I was sure he could hear it. I should have pulled away. I should have ended it right there. But instead, I just sat there, frozen, letting the moment consume me. And then it happened. His lips brushed against mine, soft at first, hesitant, almost like he was waiting for me to stop him. But I didn't. I couldn't. The second I felt the warmth of his kiss, all the walls I had built around us started to crumble. The kiss deepened, slow but certain, and the taste of wine lingered between us. My hands, almost against my will, found his shoulders, holding on to him as though I had been waiting for this moment all along. Every rational thought screamed for me to push him away, to remind myself of the line we were crossing, the trust we were breaking. But the truth was undeniable. In that moment, I didn't care. The world outside no longer existed. It was just us, tangled in something forbidden, something dangerous, something I had always told myself could never happen. But it did. The moment his arms wrapped around me, something inside me gave way. All the years of unspoken feelings, of pretending we were just friends, of ignoring the way his presence always seemed to fill the empty spaces in my life, it all came rushing to the surface. I knew it was wrong. I knew that if anyone ever found out, it would shatter everything. But that night, in that living room, I didn't think about tomorrow. I thought only about him, about us, and about the fire we had been denying for so long. His hands moved carefully, almost reverently, as if he was afraid I would vanish if he held me too tightly. But I didn't pull away. Instead, I leaned into him, my breath unsteady, my body betraying every ounce of resistance I thought I had left. We ended up in my bedroom, though I don't remember walking there. The rain outside beat harder against the windows, a steady rhythm that seemed to echo the chaos in my chest. Every touch, every kiss, felt like crossing another line, yet I couldn't stop myself from going further. I whispered his name more than once, sometimes in desperation, sometimes in surrender. And each time, he answered with a softness that only pulled me in deeper. It wasn't just lust, it was years of connection, twisted and reshaped into something forbidden. When it was finally over, we lay in silence. The weight of what we had done pressed down on me like a stone, heavy and suffocating. I couldn't bring myself to look at him, afraid of what I'd see in his eyes, regret, shame, or maybe worse, the same longing I still felt even then. I knew, in that moment, that nothing between us would ever be the same. We weren't just friends anymore. We couldn't ever be again. And yet, part of me hated how much I didn't want to take it back. The morning after was almost unbearable. The light streaming through the blinds felt too harsh, exposing everything I wanted to keep hidden. I woke before him, lying there with my heart racing, staring at the ceiling as reality settled in like a cold shadow. He stirred beside me, his arm brushing against mine. For a brief second, it almost felt normal, like two people waking up together after a night of love. But it wasn't love. It wasn't normal. It was a secret that had the power to destroy us both. When he finally opened his eyes, he gave me a small smile, soft and unguarded. "Morning," he whispered, as though it was the most natural thing in the world. I couldn't bring myself to smile back. My stomach twisted as guilt and fear tangled inside me. I sat up quickly, pulling the sheet around me like it could shield me from what had already happened. "We shouldn't have this, can't happen again," I said, my voice breaking. He sat up too, running a hand through his hair. There was a long pause before he answered. "I know, but I don't regret it." Those words cut deeper than I expected. Part of me wanted to scream at him, to make him understand the gravity of what we'd done. Another part of me wanted to collapse into his arms and admit that I didn't regret it either. But instead, I stayed silent. The day moved forward as if nothing had happened. He left, saying he'd call me later, his tone too casual, as though he was trying to convince us both that we could pretend this was just another night. But I knew better. Every glance, every touch, every laugh we had shared before now carried a different weight. The invisible line we crossed was gone forever, and I couldn't stop thinking about how easily it had happened. And that's the truth I've never said out loud. It wasn't just the act itself that haunts me, it's how much I wanted it, how much I still do. The days that followed were some of the hardest I've ever lived through. Every time my phone buzzed, my chest tightened, wondering if it was him. And when it was, I hesitated before opening his messages, afraid of what I might find. Sometimes it was something simple, like, "Did you eat?" or "How was work?" The same kind of casual check-ins he'd always sent me. But now, even the most ordinary words carried an undercurrent of what we weren't saying. When we saw each other in person, it was worse. We tried to act normal, to slip back into the comfort of just friends. But every smile lingered too long. Every accidental touch sent a jolt through me. Every silence between us screamed louder than words ever could. And the guilt, it never left me. It sat heavy on my chest in every quiet moment. I thought about the trust we'd broken, the line we had crossed, the secret that bound us together like chains. I wanted to tell myself it had been a mistake, that it was nothing more than weakness and loneliness colliding in a single night. But the truth? It hadn't felt like a mistake in the moment. It had felt inevitable. And that truth terrified me more than anything. He once said, in a low voice when no one else was around. "I can't stop thinking about you." I didn't answer. I couldn't, because I knew if I spoke, I might admit the same. Now, even as I tell the story, I feel that night pressing against me like it never really ended. I don't know if we'll ever cross that line again, but I do know this: the friendship we once had is gone forever. And the memory of that night, the rain outside, the wine on our lips, the way he whispered my name, will haunt me for the rest of my life. Sometimes I lie awake at night replaying it all, asking myself the same questions over and over again. How did we let it happen? Why didn't I stop it? Why did I want it so badly when I knew I shouldn't? The truth is, there isn't an easy answer. Maybe it was loneliness. Maybe it was years of unspoken feelings boiling over. Or maybe it was simply a moment of weakness that revealed something I had been denying all along. But one thing I know for certain: the line we crossed changed everything. It destroyed the simplicity of what we once had. I can never look at him without remembering that night. I can never laugh with him the same way, because beneath the laughter lives a secret that binds us in silence. And what eats at me the most isn't just the guilt. It's the desire that still lingers, the part of me that, even now, can't say I would take it back. We were just friends, until that night. And from that night on, we were something else, something we can never name, something we can never undo. That's the truth I carry with me, the one I'll never speak out loud again. A truth that lives in the shadows of my memory, reminding me that sometimes the people you think you could never cross a line with are the very ones you end up crossing it for.